if this is the pinnacle, if I get to go to Sam Bush's house, who's, he's my hero. If I get to go to his house, sit in his living room and jam with him for a couple of hours, and that was the whole reason I came to Nashville, that's pretty cool.
Hey, Stephen, how's it going, buddy?
Good to see you. Doing well. How are you?
It's been about, 10 years, I think, since last got to hang out.
It's pretty crazy. It's been a long, long time. You've been up to some cool stuff.
Yeah, man. Speaking of cool stuff, there's a whole lot of stuff I want to chat with you about, so let's just dive right in. I know you wear a whole lot of different hats in what you do, but if you could just introduce yourself and give sort of a 30,000-foot view of what all you do.
It's always a challenge. My name is Stephen Mougin. I am a musician, a teacher, and a label owner. I guess that's kind of the broadest definition of it. I play guitar with the Sam Bush Band. In March, we'll start my 19th year of playing in that group, which is totally amazing. We own Dark Shadow Recording, which is an independent bluegrass record label, and have a host of different artists on our label putting out records all the time that I produce and engineer here at Dark Shadow Recording. And I do a lot of educational stuff. I teach workshops and individual classes. My degree is in vocal music education, so I really enjoy teaching voice when I can. I don't do quite as much individual lesson as I used to, but workshops and such are still kind of a big part of my yearly thing.
You're a busy man.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Well, if you could just take me back a little bit. I know you grew up in the Northeast somewhere. Is that correct?
I did. Western Massachusetts, up in just outside the Berkshires.
Yeah, tell me about growing up there and how you got into music.
Well, it sort of fell in my lap. My dad decided one day he was going to learn how to play guitar when I was around 5 or so when he got his first guitar. And of course, like any young kid does, I was following him around the house and wanting to do everything he was doing. And shortly, they got me a little flea market guitar that I started beating on, and they got me a couple lessons about the time I was 6 or so, and then my mom decided she was going to learn to play banjo. We started going to some jams around in Massachusetts, and what folks were playing was, now I know, classic country and bluegrass. And so that started us down the path of this acoustic music scene. Just, potluck dinners and a big circle of folks jamming and having a good time. It was a very cool thing, especially for a youngster growing up. I got to try a lot of instruments and had a really great encouragement from lots of folks. When Mom decided she was going to start playing banjo, we were out at a concert and saw this great player, and my folks asked him if he'd come help her learn how to play. And he said he'd come to the house and give her some lessons and whatnot. So he came the first week, and I was in the corner jamming on the guitar. And the second week, he brought another guy to work with me. And those two, Will Chalet was the banjo player, Wayne Higgins the guitar player. And by the time I was 15, they were starting a new band. And by that time, I was playing some mandolin, and they invited me to join their band. And I toured with that group for 10 years. I left that band to move to Nashville. So it's a really interesting full circle kind of thing, and had a really great upbringing in the music scene around bluegrass. We went to festivals every single weekend, and you don't think of the Northeast as a hotbed for bluegrass, and it certainly couldn't be considered that, but there was some kind of bluegrass festival going on nearly every weekend. And they were little mom and pop festivals, some bigger ones, some smaller ones. Some of the huge ones we went to, there was a classic called the Peaceful Valley Bluegrass Festival. And that was where I saw folks like Bill Monroe and Jim and Jesse and the Osborne Brothers and all those classic bands, as well as some up-and-comers at the time, Green Mountain Bluegrass, which included a guy named Dan Tyminski. Seeing those folks kind of grow up and move into the scene was cool. And, some early memories of that. In fact, I have a mandolin that was played by Bill Monroe at a workshop at Peaceful Valley. He was doing a mandolin workshop. Dad and I got there early for some reason, and I was toting my little A model mandolin, and he walked in the room and said, "Oh, what have you got there?" So I flopped it up on the table and handed it to him, and he played on it, and all of a sudden the workshop started. People came in, and he just kept playing it for the whole workshop, which is pretty pretty fascinating. I've got a picture of that day in the studio here, which is a pretty cool reminder of how bluegrass is great about passing music along through the generations.
That's awesome. Can you tell me about the move to Nashville?
Yeah, I'm kind of a stubborn person that doesn't like to do a whole lot without a bit of a plan, and my plan was to teach choir. That was my thing. I was playing bluegrass on the weekends. I got my degree in vocal music education. I worked 3 years at the Mahar Regional School in Orange, Mass. I was the choir director and produced the musicals and taught music theory and that kind of stuff. And that's just what I was going to do. And I started investigating the IBMA, International Bluegrass Music Association, and realized they had an educational component. And I was trying to figure out if I could get some sort of bluegrass scene going at my high school, whether it was a little after-school club or whatever. And so in, I guess it was fall of 2001, I went down to the IBMA convention when it was still in Louisville, met a ton of folks, and was reintroduced to some people that I hadn't talked to in a while. One of them was Becky Buller, and the band she was touring in at that moment was looking for a mandolin player, and she called me and said, "Hey, would you like to audition for this?" And I was 25, I was single. I thought, why not? What? Let's try it. Let's see what happens. So ended up auditioning, got the gig, moved to Nashville in officially in June of 2002.
Okay.
And toured with that band for about a year and a half, and a variety of different groups since then. And I like the independence of it. I love teaching, I really do. But what I've learned about myself is that I like schedules that sort of change. I like a couple weeks doing one thing, and then something else. So for me, the scene being down here, and even when I was having to work a real job, whether it was mowing lawns or driving for a limo company or whatever I was doing, building studio furniture at one point, I enjoyed the constant change of a schedule. So I never did make it back. I was supposed to go back. They had given me a year sabbatical, which was just amazing after only 3 years of teaching there, but never did make it back. In fact, I was thinking of going back a couple times, and just before I got the Sam gig, I was prepared. The band director at the time was just about to retire, and he was the same guy that I taught with, and so we had it all lined up. So the fall of 2006, it would have been, I would have started back as band director. And then I got the call from Sam for a second audition for his group, and started with him in March of 2006.
Nice. I always just assumed it was the Sam gig that brought you to Nashville. I didn't realize you played in a group with Becky before that. That's really cool.
Yeah. And it was, I moved in 2002, started with Sam in 06, sorry. So 4 years of that and trying to find my way, and boy, I was not finding my way for a great deal of that time. I was playing in something like 9 different groups and still sitting home nearly every other weekend. It just, music's a hard scene, especially this acoustic thing, the bluegrass thing. Revenue streams are tight, and the festival season is kind of the big deal. So going out and playing festivals with whomever. And I was fortunate. I came to town as a mandolin player, quickly switched back to guitar, which was my original instrument. And then I kept leapfrogging. Whatever gig I got was on the other one. Whatever I was super comfortable with, I would get a gig on the other instrument, and then I'd get comfortable with that for a while. So it was a lot of that, and there were several gigs where I would actually carry both because I wouldn't know until I got to the gig which one I was playing that night. Yeah. And that served me really well, being able to play, sing all 3 parts, sing harmony parts or sing lead or do whatever I needed to do, and play 2 instruments. That made me very employable, and a lot of folks they'd call me first because then they'd fill in the band depending on who they could get. It made a lot of sense that way, and so I feel like that was a really fortunate thing that I came to town with that. And boy, looking back, I'm surprised some of those folks hired me. I've grown as a musician a lot since then, but I like to think that my hard work and just being a go with the flow kind of person on the road helps a lot in that regard.
Yeah. So with the Sam Bush gig, did you get a phone call saying, "Hey, he's looking for a guitar player"? How did that happen?
Well, at the time, I couldn't afford a place to live, and Richard Smith and his wife, Julie Adams, had taken me in. And truly, I was doing everything I could do to make money, and I just couldn't even afford to pay rent somewhere. And it was, the reason I was able to stay in Nashville was because of them. Well, Richard was doing a radio show out west of town, and he had, just before Thanksgiving, he had Sam in on his show as a guest. And we did Thanksgiving together as we always did. I had moved out by that time, and he said, "Hey, Sam was just in." And he said he was his guitar player was going back out on the road with the Dixie Chicks. That was Keith Sewell at the time. Keith toured with Sam for 1 year, and Richard said, "Man, you need that gig." And I said, "Yeah, I need that gig." So Richard called him on my behalf to give him my number, and some other folks, Sim Daly, who's a wonderful luthier pal of mine, he called Sam and gave him my number. And I'd been playing with Randy Coors a bunch, and Scott Vestal had played in that group on and off until he started with Sam the year before I did. And he gave Sam my number, which was, I guess that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Sam called me shortly after and asked me to come for an interview. And I got to say, I was super frustrated with the music business at that time. I just a lot of hard work and energy had gone into helping other people make their careers, and I just felt really stale and burnt out. And it was kind of a great place to be because I had the revelation as I was driving over to Sam's house. I'd learned a bunch of his complicated songs that he'd sent me, some of the stuff in odd meters. He needed to see if I could do it. But on the way over, I had this sort of revelation of, you know what? I've had a lot of cool opportunities, but it's not panned out to anything much at this point. I've played on the Opry. I've done all these, sort of bucket list things, which are great, but also don't really pay the bills. If this is the pinnacle, if I get to go to Sam Bush's house, who's, he's my hero. If I get to go to his house, sit in his living room and jam with him for a couple of hours, and that was the whole reason I came to Nashville, that's pretty cool. And I went to it with that sort of peace, and I'm really glad because I could certainly get uptight about things. I really wanted the gig, but as we jammed, I was just thinking about having fun with him and trying to experience that moment and not worry about the future of that. And I really think that was a large part of why he called me again to come back for a second audition. There's a million great players in town. There's no question he could have gotten someone who was a much better guitar player than me. But, I feel like it just was at the right time, the right connection. And I just felt super comfortable with him and he with me. And like I said, it's just about to be 19 years in that group, which is amazing.
That's awesome. You were able to go into it with that perspective and just be able to just enjoy it, soak it in, and let whatever happen. That's really cool.
Totally living in the now,
Yeah. How much time do you think you put into that audition?
Well, the audition was about 4 days from the phone call, so it was 4 days of panic practicing.
Yeah.
I couldn't put a number on it because it was a lot of it. This is 2002, so it wasn't so much email me the tracks. It's go find those recordings somewhere and buy the CDs and figure out how to learn them. I had some of the CDs already, fortunately, but even that is such a different thing now with streaming services and whatnot. It wasn't like that at that point. So the first day was spent trying to get all the tunes and then try to get them in my head.
You're running down to like Sam Goody and different record shops.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally trying to find whatever, album a certain tune was on. And, texting wasn't really a thing back then. And it's just that it's amazing to think of that. And it wasn't like it was any sort of hardship, but just a bigger challenge, a bigger hurdle than we have now. So anyway, sourcing the tunes, trying to get them stuck in my head. I do really well once stuff is in the brain. And I feel like a lot of my learning, even that summer I was playing with 9 different groups, it was driving to the gig, listening to their material, and really getting it stuck in my head, where I couldn't tell you the arrangement. I couldn't say, well, it's a banjo kickoff, and then it goes to this and this, and then it's a mandolin solo. But an innate feeling of, oh, here we go. It's this now. And that just comes from me for listening, and just an understanding of how stuff goes. So that was a large part of it, just listening over and over to those tracks and getting them in my head, and then trying to figure out the facility portion of the show, which was a challenge, it was a real challenge. Some of the songs are easier than others, and some of them are mandolin instrumentals, and they don't always lay out the same way on a guitar as they would on a mandolin. Fingerings are a different kind of challenge. So, figuring out all those kind of hurdles. And I definitely put a lot of work into it, but I couldn't tell you a specific number. But it was a quick turnaround. Like I said, I didn't have much time to prepare. And fortunately, he only gave me, 5 or 6 tunes to really dig in on. And they were, of course, quite challenging. And then he showed me a new tune that he was just about to release. I came on board just as the Lapsin 7 record was coming out. And so in my first audition, he started playing the head of Lapsin 7, which is in 7/4. And
7/4.
Just to see if I could pick it up. And I did, and we jammed on it. And I'm curious to... I would be curious to go back and listen to what it was I played, because there's no telling. But apparently it wasn't embarrassing because I got the gig. But
there you go.
Anyway, it took a minute for it to come to fruition.
Yeah. Can you tell me about your role in the Sam Bush band? Are you just playing guitar? Do you get to contribute to songwriting? What all hats do you wear in that band?
Well, every band situation is its own unique ecosystem. Truly. And, with each situation, you sort of have to find your place, figure out what you're good at, what you can contribute, what you're allowed to contribute, and so on and so forth. The kind of gigs that I'm interested these days are spaces where I am contributing something musically to whatever's going on. And one of the wonderful things about the Sam gig is that he gives all of us a chance to really shine and be ourselves every night. Whether that's a featured tune where I get to sing one of my songs, or whether it's just the general soloing thing. If you're familiar with the Sam Band, we do a lot of extended jam things where there'll be a melody presented and then it'll go to some other place, and every night is a completely new improvised thing. And being quick on your feet, being a really good listener to hear what's come before you and to hear the space around what you're doing is a fantastic skill to have. And the experience is truly wonderful. And I feel like when we're on stage, we're all equal partners. And it's not the kind of thing you get in a headline name band. But Sam just is that way. He's all about the vibe on stage and us playing together. It's not a him and us thing. It's a we thing. And musically, that really speaks to me in a big way. I like I try to respect songs that have been recorded by Sam or Newgrass Revival, and pay homage to the guitar licks that might have happened. So real big licks that kind of kick the tune. I'll play that just like the record, but I definitely have freedom to explore my own thing. And of course, now I've been in the band long enough, some of those guitar motifs are the ones that I created, which is cool. I'm playing that lick every night because that's the lick I thought was right for that song when we recorded it. And so it's a different mentality. A lot of the real high-end country pop, whatever gigs, those you play the same notes every night. You are required to play exactly what's on the record. And that has its place. I love this kind of musical communication vibe. That's what I really dig. And it's a pretty special thing. And we have written some. We've written a handful of tunes together. One of them is the Play By Your Own Rules, which is on the Storyman album. And that's a hoot. We actually opened shows for a couple of years with that tune. And it was amazing to see a crowd singing along with a tune that I had a hand in writing. It's pretty neat. The chorus of the tune was something that I kind of came up with on my way to the writing session. And yeah, seeing the crowd at Telluride or Merlefest or one of these big festivals just singing along it's pretty wild. It's kind of surreal. And then on his other stuff, he's very interested in hearing what we have to bring when we work up new songs for new projects with him. He's all about hearing people's ideas. He's got a sketch of what he thinks the tune might want to do, but he loves when folks can bring a musical motif or an idea or something to that and make suggestions. It's cool. It's really a collaborative experience, which is great. It's fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I imagine over a 19-year career with Sam, he's probably had some pretty awesome musical guests in the shows. Have you been able to play with
a
lot of your musical heroes throughout that time?
Sure. I mean, even just the Newgrass Revival guys, Bela and John Cowan. Getting to sing a trio with Sam and John Cowan is just quite an experience. There's a great video of the year at Merlefest when Derek Trucks and Susan Tedeschi came up and jammed with us, and I got to sing a trio with Sam and Susan on Bell Bottom Blues, which was, wild, totally wild. I got to do a songwriter, the Aspen Songwriter Festival. Sam and John Oates teamed up to do a thing, and Oates brought his percussionist, and Sam brought me, and the four of us did a show together. So sitting in Oates' little studio in Aspen, working up tunes, and I'm looking around at the. So I look at his wall, and there's a signed lyric sheet of "We Are the World." I'm like, right, that's that guy. He's he's hauling oats. He's Maneater. I can't. So many folks. Every time we do Telluride or used to be some at Merlefest too. Rocky Grass, we have a big cluster jam at the end where sort of after the encore we'll get a bunch of people to come up and play a tune. And sometimes they're orchestrated in the show. Every once in a while Sam will do a big mandolin thing. One of my mandolin highlights was doing, I don't remember the song. It might have been Old North Woods from his Circles record, which I am one of 3 mandolin players who've ever played mandolin on a Sam Bush record. There you go. That was cool. But yeah, we did Old North Woods, and out on the stage on mandolin were Tim O'Brien and Chris Steele, and I don't know if Sierra was there that year, but there was about 15 mandolin players out on stage, and it was a big spectacle and a fun thing. And, just getting to meet all my heroes and play music with them. Jerry Douglas has sat in with us a bunch whenever he's around, and I can't even think of Emmylou Harris. The first time I met Emmylou, as I said, we were when I joined the band, they were just coming out with this Lapse in 7 album, and Sam did a duet with Emmy on that particular record. And the first time I met her was on a music video shoot, which, it was my first time I'd ever experienced that. And there's Emmylou Harris, right, just right there. And she's just the sweetest. And she, we did the Leno show that year too. And she was on that, and we got to visit, and countless times at Telluride and Merlefest, she's come out and sung with us. And I've gotten to sing with her on, like Walls of Time and some of the tunes that she'll guest with us. Getting to sing trios with Sam and her was a blast. So Dierks Bentley, Del McCurry, just huge list of folks over the years. I'm spacing on a lot of them because it just depends what festival we're on. and who's there and what pals Sam has kicking around. A couple of the guys from Hootie and the Blowfish, Darius has sung with us, and Mark. Actually, just last year, Mark was out there singing a tune with us in South Carolina, where they're from. Yeah, just crazy stuff. I never would believe as a 10, 12-year-old getting into the music scene, listening to even pop radio and country radio and bluegrass radio, getting to meet some of these folks and play music with them is amazing. Pretty cool experience.
Yeah, that's wild. Being a multi-instrumentalist, can you talk a little bit about how you might approach a song with the guitar versus the mandolin?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's always about the song. What does the song want? I think if you go into it trying to show the song what you're going to do, you're setting yourself up for failure right there. So really listening to the song, trying to figure out where it sits musically. Is it soft? Is it loud? Is it energetic? Is it a quiet energy? Is it a flowing tune? What are the subtleties of the rhythm? Is it swing? Is it, does it swing? Does it have any sort of that feel to it? So truly, that's the first thing. Listening and going, oh, this is one of these kind of songs, so let's do this. And with mandolin, it's slightly more complicated. With guitar, it's either, okay, what I do, I strum, or I do sort of a, strumming would be, whether it's a bluegrass strum kind of thing, or whether it's a, more kind of a country strum or something of that ilk. Really depends on the tune. Sometimes it'll be more of, sorry, my guitar's out of tune. In fact, the kickoff that I came up with for Sam's Circles Around Me record, for that song, goes like this. Over and over again. And that little form, for folks might finger pick that. I'm useless trying to finger pick anything. I just don't have that skill, but I do that all with a flat pick. And so that kind of thing might be appropriate on a quieter tune, or a mix might work on guitar. With mandolin, it comes down to, all right, are we using the mandolin as a percussion instrument, which is really where it is in bluegrass. It's a snare drum. And so it's all about the chop. I can actually show you a little bit of that. Let me see here. Oh, let's see if this guy has been tuned. Not bad. So in bluegrass, a lot of times what you get is this chop thing, and that would be on the offbeat. So you're doing a tune that's sort of a 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, and you're just providing that chop. And sometimes you fill in with some stuff like that, but that's a real percussion kind of approach to it. And some songs just don't need that. Sometimes you're trying to do more of a sort of rhythmic pad that is more chordal. Sometimes it's you just sort of putting lines around the melody in whether it's solo note lines or that tremolo like I was just doing. Tons of options with that. But the first thing is, all right, is this a real percussive sort of thing? And if it's not, then we go to the other side of the mandolin and play more chords and notes and stuff. And it's a fascinating instrument because it really can do a lot of stuff, and it's surprisingly powerful for its size. But the chop thing, like I said, isn't appropriate everywhere, so that's kind of a different deal.
Yeah, very cool. Do you have a sort of a favorite style of playing? Do you prefer the picking, prefer the tremolo kind of stuff?
I don't really think about what I like. It's all about what the song is
right
doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if we're in a bluegrass jam session, my job is to chop and then take solos.
Sure.
And that's kind of it. If we're in a recording session, it's more about the minutia of the song.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about your guitar there?
Yeah, this is a Collings CJ45, and if you know anything about guitars, and you know what a Martin D28 is, that is the style that I played for years. I mean, forever. Rosewood back and sides, big dreadnought, and every guitar I owned up until the one before this was based on one of those. I do have I have a 1968 Martin D28, really cool old one. But I have several guitars, and I have owned several guitars over the years that were versions of that. Different woods, different companies. Everybody makes one of those. And then I was in the Telluride music store one day, and they had a series of, they had probably 6 or 7 Gibson Banner J45s. And I'd never seen that many of those before. And I went through, and my buddy Tom out there, he just sort of gives me the tour every time I'm in the store. He'll just say, all right, play this one, now play this one, now play this one. And they always go like this as far as tone and playability and whatnot. So I made my rounds with those, and they were all very cool. I mean, old guitars are just cool. So, I wasn't really shopping. I was just looking. I was just about to leave, and he said, hey, before you go, try one of these. And he hands me a Collings CJ35, which had just come out, and I took one strum on it, and I had this gut reaction about, wow, out of all these, this is the one that I'd want to take home. I said, hey, if you have one of these come through that's not spoken for, give me a call. About 6 months later, they had one they sent up to me, and I played that for the last 8 years. And I was totally satisfied. I finally kind of found my voice on guitar, and I didn't even know I was looking for that, because it's a different sound. These are based on Gibsons. The size, the shape, even the scale length is slightly shorter, but there's something about these instruments that really, it's the sound I was always looking for, and I never knew that. Bluegrass guys are supposed to play D28s or D18s. But in fact, I have more luck with this, especially in a bluegrass jam, because it has a very focused mid-range, and I can usually hear myself even amidst a loud banjo, a loud fiddle, the whole scene. So, yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of the guitar search is trying to find your sound, trying to figure out what your sound is, and it took me almost 40 years to find it.
I'd love to shift gears to your producing. So it's through Dark Shadow Recording is sort of how I got to know you. Can you tell me just a little bit about Dark Shadow?
Yeah, well, our label has been going a number of years now. I think we're at 15 years now. And recording was something that I got into when I first moved to town, because I went to a session and I stunk. I was terrible in the studio, and I was really frustrated with it, and I wanted to learn to be better. And the only way I knew to do that was to practice, and the only way I knew to do that was to just start recording myself. And so, you get a mic, you get some sort of rig. Back then, it wasn't even computer-based. I had a little desk thing that recorded to some hard drives or whatever, but it wasn't even, I couldn't see the waveforms or anything. Mm-hmm. And that was the foundation. And of course, you buy a mic and you start doing it, and then someone says, "Hey, can you do a demo for me?" And you need 2 mics.
Yeah.
And then the rabbit hole continues, and you keep spending money on mics and preamps and gear, and suddenly you got enough to do a whole band, and then you're making records, and that kind of stemmed into this whole Dark Shadow thing. We started the label because my wife and I were tired of seeing our friends sign bad record deals, and we're talking about the folks that are at beginnings of their careers. It wasn't established acts that knew what they were doing. It was family bands and people who were my peers that were just desperate to get on a label because they thought that would be the be-all, end-all. And, you know, for anybody wondering, it isn't. Being on a label does not guarantee you of anything, but it gives you a team to work with, and that's kind of the real advantage. But anyway, we started and we signed a family band from down in Tullahoma, Tennessee, and put out a record on them, and we began learning how to do that in the bluegrass world. My wife is a bluegrass performer as well. She's from Slovakia originally, and she handles all our radio promotions and artist interactions and media stuff. And we were able to build a nice network of all of those folks. We've put out, I think I was just counting the other day, 14 albums. I don't know how that's possible, but somewhere in that neighborhood. And it's a variety of things. I have a solo album that I did a couple of years ago. We're about to release our 6th album with Becky Buller. Rick Ferris, we're working on his 4th record with the label. I wanted to start the label based on the music and the artists. And, you know, I'm not all high and mighty about it, but it is not my main source of income. And so I'm able to make decisions that aren't necessarily great business decisions, but I feel like it serves the artist and it serves the music. And that's what's really important to me. I put my heart and soul into all of our projects. I produce and engineer everything that we release. And I'm really committed to these songs and these performances. So when it comes time to do the promotion, I'm really passionate about the whole thing. And I'm proud of the catalog we've built, and I'm proud of the new stuff that's coming out. I'm very excited about continuing to grow as an engineer. We opened this studio in the fall of 2019, and it's been a nice growing thing for me. To be an engineer in a consistent room, consistent space, and really keep dialing with my mic collection and preamp collection and all that to try to just keep growing and building and you know, trying to get the best of the best of the best of the best out of whatever we're doing. That's really what I'm focused on.
Yeah. I got to imagine you're a huge blessing to up-and-coming artists with the network of players that you're able to bring in on the sessions. I've just being there, I've seen Sierra Hull, Ron Block, guys from the Sam Bush Band. Like, it's a really great network of players that you've built up over the years.
Sure, yeah, and that's directly you know, the all-star folks that I'm able to bring in is because of my work with the Sam Bush Band. I've met them on the road, and people know me at this point, and I've worked with lots of my heroes, and it's always just a matter of scheduling or finance why we couldn't get somebody in on something. But it's pretty wild, the amount of folks that we've been able to pull into the studio for a variety of things. Recording the Fairfield Four and legends like Ricky Skaggs and the Whites, and man, just all kinds of different folks. Jerry Douglas and almost the entire Alison Krauss band. The only one I haven't recorded is her here at the studio. So yeah, pretty cool, and it's nice. I really appreciate and don't take for granted the respect that those guys have for me to come up and play on a tune of ours. It's really pretty special, and it's real exciting. I mean, I've gotten to do, I did a session last summer for the Del McCurry Band. It was something that they needed somebody to record them immediately, 2 days notice. And Ronnie called me, and they came in and cut some stuff. I don't know what they're going to use it for, and it has nothing to do with our label, but I'm pretty excited that I got a call to do that. And, again, 12-year-old me was just jumping up and down to be in on a session with those guys listening to music being born. It was amazing, totally amazing experience. So, yeah, I don't take that for granted. And getting to work with Sam in the studio, I've done on his Circles record, he credited me for as a vocal coach. I was with him for the entire record, working him through vocal stuff. And, that's right in my background. And It's fun. I enjoy it. It's all part of who I am and what I do.
That's awesome. So what is next for Stephen Mougin? Are you still doing the Nedski and Mojo duo, or what else is on the horizon for you?
Yeah, Ned and I, he's my best pal, and we love hanging out and making music together. It is really hard to get his schedule to align with mine, so it's been a struggle the last number of years. We play once or twice a year. We'll get together and do a show here and there. The most exciting thing I think right now is that Yana and I have started a four-piece bluegrass band, and she's sort of coming out of retirement, or hiatus, I guess you'd call it. Our son is kind of old enough at this point that she feels like she can step away a little bit and be more flexible on the weekends, and we can do some things as schedules allow, which is still a massive challenge. But we released a couple of songs starting last year. We released a tune called Like I Used to Do, which is a remake of an old Tim O'Brien tune that the Seldom Seen recorded. And we did it as a husband-wife duet back and forth, which is a little different take on the way the song reads. And had great success with it. We didn't really expect it. There was a window in our schedule, and we thought, this would be fun to do, so we did it and put it out, and have had really good reaction to it. And so in November, we released a tune called Frozen in Time, which is sort of winter themed, but it isn't a Christmas tune, and that has been doing really well on radio for us. So in that same kind of time frame, we started talking to some pals of ours about putting together a four-piece that we could go play shows. It's cool. We're kind of building it, and it's a long-term thing. When the opportunity is right, we'll play more, but it's very hard to schedule. My calendar is occupied with Sam Bush stuff, and then with our Dark Shadow Recording label stuff, it's hard to find time to do that, especially when it's months out, which is when you need to for booking shows. So it's a little complicated at the moment, but I'm fired up. It's fun. It's fun to do our own music. Mm-hmm. I'm getting to work up some of the tunes that are on my record that I've not really played out live, mm-hmm. and we're doing some stuff that Yana's always wanted to do. We've got some songwriter buddies that we're covering some of their material. Yeah, it's fun. It's an exciting thing.
Nice. The song you said you guys released, so is that on Spotify and all the streaming platforms?
All the streaming platforms. Mm-hmm.
So if you just look up what's Stephen and Yana Mougin to find that?
You can, if you look up Stephen Mougin or Yana Mougin, you can find them both. Yana's also got a single that we released a year before that's a pretty stout thing. And like I said, I've got a full album of tunes of mine, plus some other things. If you go on your favorite streaming platform, you'll probably see me popping up on other people's stuff as well over the years, whether it's Sam stuff or whatever.
Awesome. Well, Stephen, you've been super generous with your time today. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your friendship. You gave me some of my first freelance video opportunities, which I really appreciate. I wish I was a little more confident in my skills back when I was working with these legendary musicians in your studio. But I think we got some decent stuff in there. And
absolutely, yeah. No, it's been fun, and your work has just gotten better and better and better. And it was great back then. I was thrilled with what you were doing, and it's just cool to see all the stuff you've worked on since.
I appreciate that. All right, Stephen, I'll let you go for now. Appreciate your time.
All right, thank you so much.